Let's go into section 2, where we can dive more into the myths and facts, as well as the tool set and the skills that you need for data analyst role. So you all know that data is the booming field, and more people are thinking of changing their career or like starting their career with like data. One of the questions that many have wondered is that whether they would fit in this career. But to our speakers, I know you have like different education backgrounds. You start somewhere before analyst role, except Shiner. Shiner like choose to be in that career path right away. But how do you know if you are suitable to work in data related job like data analyst?
I believe there's no such thing as being suitable or not suitable. You totally can. You may not fit to the specific company or to the specific team. For example, in my example earlier, if you have stakeholders who love to talk about pets and kids and weekends, and you don't, you're just like introvert, maybe it would not be the great fit for you, but you will definitely find a team or maybe company that fits better for you. So there's no such thing as being suitable or not. It's a matter of, and as we brought up earlier, so data analyst role consists of two different parts. One is hard skills and the other is like soft skills, people skills. So if you have soft skills, it's just a matter of like brushing up on your hard skills. It can be like BI tool like Tableau or Looker or Power BI, and of course SQL. So really you can be a decent data analyst with having in your background, in your tool belt skill set only SQL and one of the BI tools. That's it. That's enough for get started. I truly believe it is the case.
Shiner, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I generally agree with what Anton says as well. It really depends on like your work environment. But if I were to like really generalize, if like whether or not if an individual would be suitable for a data analyst, I think if you are a curious individual that likes to get to the bottom of things and enjoys with engaging with like a diverse set of people and likes to work with data to create like meaningful solutions, and that doesn't mean like models. It could be just like visually to be able to tell a story or like I said, or modeling, the particular role might be suitable for you.
Yasmin, you want to add anything?
I think Shiner and Anton really explained it very well. From my personal experience, that aha moment that when I realized that I want to work in an insight related field is when I spent a lot of time doing, those technical skills programming, but then that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to know how does that influence the user's experience and the business as well. And so that's like if you really want to know the why and the what and answer a lot of questions and help answer those questions and build good hypotheses, then and as well use those technical skills to help you answer those questions and help your stakeholders take data-informed decisions, then I think that is a good place to start.
To summarize this, like curiosity, passion for the product, understanding the why, the what. Some of the hard skill I heard so far is SQL, some BI tools in Python, which we will talk about a little more later. But I want to address something that the personality being introvert and extrovert to be in this role. I feel like so I'm an introvert myself. Like in life, like socially, I can be awkward sometimes. But at work, I talk a lot. I don't know, maybe it's the environment, and this is the expectation of my role that I need to do that. So yeah. Do you have anything? Do you have the same feeling, or like, what do you think about this?
I'm strongly an ambivert. I can't be an extrovert all the time. Can't be an introvert all the time. I have to keep switching. But people are different, but I think that is helping me a lot in what I do, because I can be introverted when I'm programming, I can be extroverted when I'm talking to people, and that is good.
Yeah. It's a good mix of everything if you're in data analyst role. Now, the next question is, so a lot of times, like knowing the hard skill is not all for a data analyst role, because learning business domain and product knowledge are also very important for analysts to make actionable recommendations from their insights. So what is one way you find effective to gather this knowledge? Now, let's go with Shiner first.
For me, because I've worked in like quite a diverse set of industries. I worked in healthcare, and I've also worked in provincial federal government, finance, real estate, and now in fintech. So there's really no possible way for me to know all of these things before, going into the role itself. So at the end of the day, for the business domain and product knowledge aspect of things, I pretty much just learn them all on the job. And one thing I would say is that do not be afraid to ask questions, no matter how silly it might sound, because it's better to learn it early on than later. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Just learn on the job. And ask a lot of questions.
Totally agree. No question is a dumb question. Always ask. So Yasmin, how about you?
I completely agree. Ask a lot of questions. Knowing the business and how it operates is very important, because your role as a data analyst is to help support with data and help support with data informed decisions. So knowing who is taking those decisions and why they're taking them and who is involved, and knowing all of these relationships in the business is very important for you to be effective and for your data to be used for further action. So I agree, that's in terms of like the business side. In terms of the application or like the product side, that is also important. But I mean, like Shiner said, like you can't possibly know all of the different fields out there. So one thing that helped me personally when I'm working in video games, I mean, yes, I do play video games, but Dauntless, to be fair, is not a game that I would pick up on my own. It's not the type of genre that I play. So what really helped me is actually going, experiencing the game and playing it and trying, to put myself in the shoes of the players and to see what they're seeing, and to watch some Twitch streamers play the game, so that I would have like this deep understanding of the product, and as well talk to the game designers and see why they're designing it in a particular way, and talk to product managers, see what is their goal of rolling out certain features in the game. So ask a lot of questions, try to get involved as much as you can. I know it's not possible in some certain fields like cybersecurity, for instance, but if you're looking at like fields where you can actually go and experience that product, that would help a lot.
Thanks, Yasmin. How about you, Anton?
Yeah, I'm totally agree. So first thing, use your product, whether it's application, web app, a website, piece of software, game. Using it, you understand better. It gives you like better understanding how data points are being generated, preserved. So later on, when you work with the data, you understand. Okay, you get this aha moments. Okay, I saw it in the game or in the software. Second would be having a close relationship with stakeholders again, and those like PMs, product managers, or program managers, as the way they call them in Microsoft, are people who know the most about. Like there is no other people who know like more than them about the product, about the product actually. So having close relationship with them is super important. And over time, inevitably, you get this. Working with data on day-to-day basis, you'll kind of start to obtain this domain knowledge by itself. So over time, I call it smell test. You work with data, you see right away if it looks off on or like something wrong with it, like 8% conversion rate. No, that cannot be true. But in order to be there at that level, you have to spend some time with the data, for example, to be able to make the smell tests and look about right tests. Yeah, so 3 things: working with data, stakeholders, and using product.
Smell test, I like that.
Yeah. Like I feel like, yes, I agree with Anton that we need to spend time a little bit with the data and then kind of understanding the benchmark. And then like suddenly the next day we see like a big drop. Like, no, it cannot be. I think this is a classic question. If you do go to interviews, they ask like if you do see like a peak or like a decrease in data, what would you do? Yes, you need to combine your technical skill and also like the product knowledge, business domain in order to answer that question. The next question is around the skill set that you need for a data analyst job. So here's another myth. Do we need to be good at math and statistics and programming to get into the field? And how do you know how good is enough?
Math and statistics, definitely, yes, it would be helpful. It would put you so much ahead if you do know a lot of stats and a lot of math to interpret the data. But it really depends on the type of data that you're looking at. I mean, you don't want to do like overkill math with something that only requires an average and standard deviation. So it's really your understanding of the problem space that not understanding, but like the requirements of the problem space that really dictates what kind of skills you need to apply. And from my experience, it's having that very extended knowledge of statistics is a plus, but it is not a hard requirement. In terms of programming, I mean, yes, again, it would help you a lot to have a background in programming, because that's what you're using to to build your data models and to extract the data and visualize and all of that. But I wouldn't say that a particular type of programming is required. Like if you know how to program, you can pick up something else. Like fun fact, when I was doing my computer engineering degree, the only course that I skipped was the databases course. And that is the course where, everyone gets introduced to SQL. So my first line of SQL, actually, I wrote it at Phoenix Labs. But that was only possible because I had a lot of like extensive background in programming. So I programmed like in C++ and Python and Java and C# and all these different languages. So like SQL was kind of like easier for me to grasp. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have some kind of technical background or like some kind of skill in programming, don't limit yourself to like a set of languages that you need to know to become a data analyst.
Anton, you wanna go?
I would go for no. Like I would vote for no. So and it depends. Like if when you say programming skills, if you include SQL in it, then yes. If SQL is different, SQL is not programming, but it's a query language. But like I can't stress enough how SQL important in the industry. It's pretty much gold standard, whether it's data engineer, data scientist, data analyst, analytics engineer, like BI developer. Like you will face SQL day to day. So it's vitally important to know it. But for example, for statistics and math, my life hack, what I do when I have like encounter some A/B tests, for example, and I do some statistical analysis, even though I did it like in college, I totally forgot everything. What I do, I just go to Khan Academy, like watch like 10-15 minutes videos about like p-value, alpha value, statistical significance. It gives me like, I just brush up on the skills, and you're good to go for the next 3 months. Like yeah, that's what I usually do.
Yes, Anton shared that he's a graduate from YouTube degree. So yeah. Shiner, you want to add anything?
Sure. I mean, Yasmin and Anton pretty much like once again covered like so many of the great points already. So what I will say, I guess, is that it would be very beneficial for you to be good at math and statistics and programming. But if I were to like choose between like all of these, I would probably say especially programming, because it's ultimately the tool that you're using to create meaningful solutions for your stakeholders. In terms of how good is good enough, it is hard to say because it varies from company to company and like tech stack to tech stack, and as well as the problem that you're actually working on. Like Yasmin said, if something can be solved by a simple average and standard deviation, you should always go for the simplest route, because the simplest solution is the easiest to understand and is the easiest to make it work, if essentially at the end of the day. So yeah, that's all I have to say to that.
Yeah, Shiner, you had a background in statistics. Do you use statistics every day at work?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say every day, but there are certain type of frauds that we do need to look at, things like classification trees, Gini index, to determine whether or not if the false positive rate is good, recall curves, that type of thing. But that's not every day. That's a kind of specific. It's like a specific project that I worked on over the past few months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so like hearing from all of you, it sounds like these are like very beneficial to know. It's very nice to have, but it's not a hard requirement. But SQL, I have to say that SQL is kind of the baseline. It's a must-have because like data scientist, engineer, like analyst, whoever it is, you doing with data, you need to know this query language. Okay, so since we're talking about languages and tools, can you name some common data analytics tools? And maybe like more of like, what are you using at work? What is your tech stack right now? Let's go with Yasmin.
Prior to joining Phoenix Labs, I used mostly like open source tools. So Python tools, Matplotlib and Pandas. But after joining, we are using different tools right now. I mean, I still use Python, but it's mostly for Jupyter notebooks to like write some very quick tests. But we're using right now GCP tools. So it's mostly BigQuery and Data Studio for visualization. Yeah, that's for me.
How about you, Anton?
Well, I want to say unfortunately, but yeah, it's kind of unfortunately. Microsoft is very religious about what tools we're using, and we don't get to use even SQL. So there is like specific in-house version of SQL that Microsoft built. They called Custo, which is very annoying. But when they was hiring me, the technical interview was on SQL, but I don't get to use SQL. And yeah, so in terms of BI, we use Power BI. Surprise. I'm a big fan of Tableau and Looker, but yeah, I have to use Power BI now. So our tech stack is, as I said, pretty much everything about Microsoft. But I want to kind of emphasize that once you know the SQL, you kind of it not only you know SQL, it means you can easily work in GCP, BigQuery, AWS Redshift. You can work in Snowflake. For me, for example, as a hiring manager, knowing SQL, it opens so many different venues for you to go with. So I will keep saying the SQL is, and you know why I'm saying this? I see lots of people kind of shying away from learning SQL because it sounds intimidating. It's programming language. As I said, it's not programming language. It's a query language, and it's much easier. So it's a matter of like few hours to get started with SQL. It's a matter of few days to get comfortable, and matter of few weeks to get really proficient at SQL. For like if for example people in audience who still kind of don't know whether or not they should try, I would say go for it. Like in YouTube, there is like again hashtag YouTube degree. There is a free code camp channel, and they have like SQL in 4 hours or something like that. Just watch it. Just do it. It will like, and not only, as I said, it's industry like gold standard. SQL is also like technical interviews like gold standard. Like 80%, 90% of all technical interviews in data field is in any data domain is all about SQL. So like if you have capacity to take home only one takeaway from all this event, I would say it's SQL. You have to learn SQL, and it's easy. Like don't shy away from it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's SQL still is most important thing, and it sounds like from all of you that like each company will have like the different tech stack. So how about Shiner? Do you use a different tech stack?
Again, just to reiterate what Anton said, SQL is pretty much a must. I use SQL, well, specifically Amazon Redshift, because a lot of the stuff we do is using the AWS platform. So, but knowing, if you know SQL, regardless of, the different types of SQLs out there, MySQL, Oracle SQL, MS SQL, they're more or less the same. So once you know one of them, you can easily pick up the others. So if you come across a job posting that its requirement is one of the SQL languages that you don't know, you shouldn't need to worry too much about it, because at the end of the day, it's just probably like a minor syntax difference, like the number of lines you're querying for any particular query is like at the end instead of at the top or of the query, that type of thing. So yeah, definitely learn SQL. It'll be a good skill to have. In terms of the actual tech that's used for me on a day-to-day basis, it will be Amazon Redshift SQL, Python, Tableau, Excel, surprisingly, because a lot of things you can actually just build with Excel and it's a lot faster. And also an assortment of AWS suite related stuff like AWS S3. So yeah, that's kind of what I use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, thanks, Shiner. Yes, Excel is a great tool. Can never get rid of that. Okay, so sounds like many tools, different tech stack, and there's another myth. Like when you look at job descriptions, they may ask like a bunch of different tools, languages. It can be very overwhelming, intimidating candidate. So if someone have no knowledge of any of those tools, like which one do you suggest them to learn first? I guess it's SQL. But at the same time, how do you tackle, how do you give advice to candidates when they see job posting with so many tool stack that require to apply for the role? I guess, Anton, since you mentioned that you are a hiring manager, what do you think about this?
Well, I would say go for it. If you see 30-40%, it won't hurt, right? So even worst case scenario, you'll hear back that, oh no, sorry, whatever they write, we decided to go with different candidate or whatever automatic thing that they send to you. And I more and more see on the job postings at the very bottom, hey, don't feel free to apply even though you don't 100% comply with all the requirements. Let's get to know each other. Let's chat. And it's reality. Just make proper maybe your resume in terms of to be relevant to the job posting, even though it's not 100% match. And yeah, I think you're good to go. Don't worry about being 100% match there.
Okay, so how about Shiner? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Anton said. If you don't necessarily check all the boxes, even if you just check some, I would say just throw your resume in. It really doesn't hurt. It probably will cost you a few minutes to change up your resume a little bit so that it fits the job description. But at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is you get a rejection email. And even then, that's actually very positive, because it gives you the opportunity to ask the recruiter, hey, why am I getting rejected? And you can have a kind of a follow-up on the specific things that you can work on for you to get the role itself. So if you're really passionate about the company and the role that you really want to get in, that's a very good opportunity for you to actually just reach out to them and just try to work out the exact requirements that they're looking for. And I ideally everyone would get back to you and say, yeah, let's talk. But that doesn't happen often. But if it does happen, it's very beneficial. But if you were to ask me in terms of the languages that a data analyst should probably pick up first, aside from SQL, because we've driven that home already, that SQL is basically the holy grail, I would probably say an open source programming language like Python, because it's widely applicable to many different industries, and also for you yourself to learn. It's not, gated by like a paywall, like those proprietary softwares like SAS or SPSS, for instance. So that's what advice I would give in terms of what tech one should pick up if they're just first starting out as a data analyst.
Nice, thanks, Shiner. How about you, Yasmin?
I would say long live the open source. If you can't access, different types of tech stacks, don't worry about it. All you need to know, or like all the hiring managers really need to know, is that you can use the tools that you get exposed to. So if open source is all you have access to, use that, build up your skills. Python's for free, you guys. Just like pick up Python and use all of the libraries there. And I think that should be good to like build up your skills. And in terms of job rejections and all of that, applying for jobs is a process. Like you're gonna get rejected so many times, and you're gonna learn a lot also from that. And also, like, it's not just about getting rejected from jobs. It's also about building those networks and those relationships, if you can, with the different people in the field to understand really what they're doing, or with the hiring managers. Like even if they reject you, you might still learn from them what is it really that they're looking for and how you can build up your skills better.
For sure. Thank you all. And just to add to one point is that the reality is that to get a candidate who meet 100% of the job description, it is very expensive because they will be very expensive to hire. And yeah, they are competitive, yes. But sometimes that's why companies will settle with like, let's say 60, 70%, depending on the market. And they really hire for like the potential as well. If they do see the curiosity in you, like you're passionate about your role, the company, then yeah, you also have a high chance as well. The last question is around polishing your skill, because you're already in the field and we have some people who are already in the field today as well. What's your personal way to polish your skill and be better at your job every day? Let's go with Shiner.
For me, Mastercard has kindly provided its employees with Coursera accounts, essentially, so we can go into Coursera and essentially take whatever we want. So that's the kind of the go-to platform these days that I've been using to upskill. Prior to that, it is a lot of YouTubing. Like Anton said, YouTube is such a great resource. It's like underrated resource. Like a lot of, I would say if there's something that you want to learn, it's probably already out there, like freely to learn somewhere in some shape or form. So if you put in the time to actually just try to find it, you will probably and most likely find it. So yeah, that's how I usually learn things. And also kind of in terms of habit, I guess, like I would encourage anyone who's like trying to, learn something new to kind of do it, make it like a habit, do it like either like every day or like every other day, and set a small goal for yourself essentially to, because otherwise you won't, because if you just picture yourself at the end of the line, say you want to, I want to finish this deep learning certification whatsoever. And it might seem like a daunting task until you break it down into microscopic pieces. Like if you just work towards it day by day, put in like, 1 hour each day after work, you'll get it done. You'll get it done. And it will be a lot easier than you would have imagined.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's depends on people, on personality. So I was surprised to know that people are different, right? So for example, my way of learning stuff is like watching YouTube videos. That's why like sources like YouTube or like Udemy, it's very suitable for me. But I was very surprised when I heard that some people actually don't like watching to learn. They don't show me, just tell me, or let me read the book. And I am no, don't tell me, show me how to do it. And so it really depends on your style. Everybody has their own style. Some people read books and articles, other people watch videos, and maybe some people need kind of structure. That's why maybe like cohort courses more suitable for them, so that they have deadlines and quizzes and tests and peer reviews. So it really depends. One like super terrible advice that I will give is frequently change your jobs so you can learn more tech stacks, and but it's one way of learning stuff.
For sure. How about you, Yasmin?
I completely agree with Anton. It's people are different. People have different learning styles. So find something that matches your learning style and pick it up. For me personally, I like learning by doing. And then through that, I would try to go and find resources. So for instance, I would pick up something new, some kind of a new project or some kind of a new skill or a new tool to learn. So what I would do is that I would try to incorporate it into my, actual tasks, and then see how I can use it there. And that would involve so many different resources, like YouTube. Again, it's great. It's for free. Go use it. So yeah, YouTube, Stack Overflow, just Googling in general. I also am a big fan of structured books and reading things and having a reference, but I wouldn't be reading them from cover to cover. I would just have a good reference for me to, look for sort of some types of solutions. And sometimes even to read from cover to cover, depending on the book. So, yeah.
Thank you all. So I think we cover a lot about how to polish your hard skill. You can go on YouTube, Coursera, have a habit, set some times to learn every day, incorporate the knowledge you learn into your job, 5 projects to work on that. And I will just add one small point about how to polish the soft skill. I will say reading is one thing, getting best practices in communication is one thing, but I like to take every opportunity of communication as learning. So I would think of an idea, I would try it out. And then afterward, I would tell my stakeholders, so today I tried something on you, does it work? Do you understand it more? Can you give me feedback? So yeah. Let's go into Q&A from the audience, and then for 15 minutes, and then afterward we will grab things up with the final questions, and stay tuned for that questions. Okay, so let me take a look at what questions. So since we have a mix of data analysts, senior data analysts, what set aside a data analyst with a senior data analyst? What is the gap that you need to close in order to get that senior position? Shiner, you wanna go first?
Sure. So I guess the difference between I guess this also applies to any role in general between a senior and just a non-senior. It's just your ability to iterate and understand things quickly and to be able to formulate an actionable plan quicker. That's essentially what, in my opinion, at least, that sets a senior apart from just a regular non-senior. And because at the end of the day, I mean, sure, the senior is probably more technically more capable than a non-senior, but we equally are not equipped with sufficient knowledge on our day-to-day to perform our job without seeking help. So it's not seniors doesn't need help at all. Me, oftentimes I'm always asking people for things hey, where to find certain data, what does this data field mean, how do I make a query more efficient, type of thing, etc. So it's really, I think, in my opinion, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, it's just the ability to iterate things quicker that will separate you from a senior and a non-senior.
What do you think, Anton? Do you have anything else to add?
First of all, I would say there is no clear boundaries between this position, and I mean, it changes a lot, not just tiny bit, a lot from company to company, and not only senior versus non-senior. The industry is so, as you said, it's booming, it's so new. So companies are still figuring out proper titles for proper position. I have seen people calling themselves or have title like senior data scientist, but actually they were doing data engineering, and maybe knowingly or not knowingly. So I think it's it's subjective, right? But the way I think of it is when companies don't want to handhold you, they want to hire. That's why when they say this is a senior role, so pick up and go. So don't we don't want to handhold you. Just we want to be self-sufficient. Just pick up the project and go with it. When they hire, maybe when there is no like senior clause, it kind of presumes that you get a help much like more help. More people will be willing to help you. You kind of have credit to ask more questions, and I don't know. This is how I see it. It's a level of autonomy. I would say.
Yasmin, you want to add anything?
I'm not a senior, so I'm learning from you guys. But yeah, it's my understanding is that yes, it's level of autonomy and hand-holding, and also like bringing different teams together and your experience with different types of stakeholders.
Yeah, so for sure, to summarize what I just hear from you all is that like, firstly, the level of autonomy, I guess that's more like you need to have strong technical skill as a data analyst first. So like whatever the ambiguous problem get into your hand, you can just go with it, figure out the plan, project manage yourself, or like gather a team and project manage it, and have an actionable plan and actionable recommendations, work with different types of stakeholders in the company.
Hold on, Hi. I think you are the most qualified person to answer this question. You not only senior, but you also work in the industry of talent acquisition, right? So you should tell us what's the difference between senior versus non-senior.
At Unbounce, I was a senior data analyst, and the reason I get promoted was because I do very good stakeholder management and project management. So that sets me apart. But yeah, like, you know, like any kind of technical hard skill thing is like the baseline. Okay, everyone needs to meet this. You better, yes, great. But also like the soft skill to kind of drive the project home sets you apart a lot. But also like now that I'm more in HR, I think like, for example, like, yes, driving something home, but also making big impact on the company. Like Shopify have like different performance level, like based on impact of an employee on like the company. But also we do have like a planned like very clear set of expectations for each level. Like if you're from like intermediate role to more senior role, you obviously need to have like strong technical, but also like very solid the domain, like business domain, or like in my case, like the talent domain. Yeah, and then stakeholder and project management. Mm-hmm.
I will quickly add one thing. So kind of to elaborate that every company is different. Some companies just throw the, okay, we need senior because we just need senior, we have money. And some companies have like really like matrix, right? So like form, okay, you have to like to be a senior, all the boxes have to be checked. And one of like, I've seen such forms, and in one of the company it was, for example, one of the items was to be a senior, you have to be able to train intern. Like you have to have your own intern, like co-op student that you worked with for extended period of time in order to become a senior. So some companies are more structured, or some less. It really depends.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree with that. And it sounds like there are two kind of different paths here. It's like more of individual contributor path, and then like more people management path in like being senior, like, oh, you need to like manage some interns as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, okay, this question is very nice. I love it. How do you usually quantify or measure the impact of your work? Just talking about impact. And how do you manage to focus on the most valuable projects and products? Okay, who wants to take this first?
For me, it would be because a lot of what we do is fraud prevention. So there is a definitive metric that we can measure. That's basically how much money we are helping our clients save, like to mitigate their fraud, for instance, like wire transfer fraud, for instance. So how much of that we have mitigated. So yeah, so for me, at least, it's quite easy to quantify the models or strategies I have put in place to mitigate these frauds, because there's always like kind of an associated dollar amount to each of these fraudulent transactions. So yeah, so I can simply just aggregate that and quote it. But not every industry is like as simple as this in terms of being able to quantify your success. A lot of it is like very subjective, I guess. Like I don't really have a good example in mind, but a lot of it might just be, you know, keeping the clients engaged with the company. But there's not really like a hard metric to measure that, like a hard KPI. So yeah, that's the case for me.
How about in gaming, Yasmin?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I think the metric for like how effective the data is by how many decisions are being are taken using that data. How much influence does it cause in taking the decisions, and also in really understanding the different types of asks that the stakeholders have. Sometimes they would be asking questions just because they're curious, because it's a nice to know. Sometimes it is good to know. Sometimes it is a must know because we can't proceed otherwise. So knowing that distinction between these types of data questions can really help in have some kind of that foresight in whether this is going to be a successful type of insight that we're delivering, or whether it is just going to be, you know, looked at and be like, cool, okay, yeah, moving on. Yeah, and that happens a lot, and it comes really with experience.
Anton, how about you?
Yeah, I would say it's my pain point. So sometimes on some projects you work and you kind of work in silo. You don't see how your work is like impacting overall the company or overall the business, especially for the huge organizations, right? You never know, especially not translating your work into like revenue or profit or any sort of like currency. And when I think like I'm doing not impactful job, I really start like it discourages me. I really go to job postings and try to look for a new job. Yeah, that's what I do. But so I believe it's a matter of like this is where good management shines, right? So if you have a good manager, if you're lucky to have a good manager, so your manager will always encourage you and kind of show to you what, like how your work translates into the overall success of the company or the team or of the project. Yeah, it's sometimes it's really, as Shiner said, sometimes it's really easy to, especially in small organizations, in startups, you do something and you can like directly translate it into like USD or whatever currency you guys like using. In some companies it's not. Yeah, well, what do I do when I can't? I don't know. Like I have example. So I built a dashboard for our production team, and they were like shooting video. Like it was a fake dashboard that showing that something was broken. So that by the scenario of the promotional video, that okay, Microsoft has a tool that help like big organizations to deal with their problems, and so it appeared that like I spent maybe like hours, if not days, building that dashboard, and it appeared only 3 seconds on the video, and I was like, what? But so it kind of it feels bad. But then when you kind of start to think about it, okay, if like 1,000 people see it, like 1,000 people, you kind of do the math by 3 seconds. Okay, that's not too bad. I don't know, like it's really hard to quantify, and I really like this question. Maybe try to communicate to a manager about it. Yeah, that's a very important subject, I believe.
Thanks, Anton. For me, like at Shopify, because my support is for talent, like a lot of times it's like measuring productivity, which is like how do I measure that? So yeah, like a lot of estimation has to be done. And then like my job is to support like making better decisions and like making sure we have fairness. So like we measure promotion fairness or like compensation fairness, hiring fairness every single year so that we make sure that like whatever the insights we feed into like the decision of stakeholder, they do it and then we see the result next year. Yeah, it's a long-term process to measure that. Okay, so right, let me check to see what are other questions we have here. How do you get noticed by employers if you're not a STEM graduate and do not have a data background? Is it better to reach out to smaller employers in startups? Anton might be a good resource to answer. So you got call out. Go for it, man.
Well, I would say yes. So reaching out directly to small companies is a great idea, especially if you can bring something with you, like, hey, I did a market research and here's where you are in the industry, or I did like competitive SWOT analysis, or whatever you can do. So like bring some value upfront. It opens it's a huge opportunity for you going forward. It's really easy to get noticed by small companies versus in huge corporations. Like even though like hiring manager or like whoever that person liked what you did, liked what you brought, they might not be have that level of decision making to hire right away, unlike small startups. Yeah, so if you can build something, let's say you put together a dashboard and you can showcase that you have done some research, you really want to work with them, that always works. And it can, like, you can skip few interview levels. So like I remember when I was a startup, we had such people approaching us, and they were immediately like shortlisted without even phone screening by our recruiter. So like it really works.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Anton. Shiner and Yasmin, if because you both have STEM background, but maybe you already help with hiring. If you see a non-STEM major, like how do you feel? And then like what helps them set apart from the candidate pool? Yasmin, wanna go first?
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's going back to my earlier answer of have a portfolio or GitHub to showcase what you have worked on before. Just show that you do have those, at least the technical skills to help you in becoming a data analyst. But yeah, and also like what other types of experience that you have that would be related to what a data analyst does. That also helps a lot in understanding whether it's a good candidate or not.
Shiner, how about you? What do you think?
For me, their portfolio is definitely something that I would look at. I was actually in charge of hiring my replacement before I left the real estate company back in New Westminster. So I had the fortunate opportunity of reviewing a lot of resumes and doing a lot of interviews. So aside from the projects and basically anything that they've done in the past, one thing I really want to look at is their personality, because I think at the end of the day, personality is probably more important than your like current technical skills, because technical skills can always be developed in the future, but personality is kind of a harder trait to change over time. So that's definitely something I would look at to see how enthusiastic they are and how they approach certain problems, even though their approach might be doesn't sound from the industry standard, but if they are creative in their approach and like very willing to think outside the box, I might give this particular candidate a chance, because I know this particular person has the personality to grow, rather than despite of their current technical capabilities.
Thank you. Yes, for sure.
I highly agree with that.
think, yeah, personality is so important. Yeah, like I heard stories about like candidates stepping into an interview where like there's a woman and man in the room, and they only look at the men when they answer the questions, and that show this respect, part of their personality as well. So yeah, work with good people who's curious and willing to learn. Okay, so my next question for you all is that what is the most challenging part of your job as an analyst, and how are you working toward getting out of that challenge? Anton, since you are unmuted, you want to go for it first?
Yeah, I would say working with stakeholders, right? It's all about stakeholders. Sometimes so my success depends on my stakeholders. So they ask for a report of a dashboard or like ad hoc analysis, and they just throw a question at you, and it's up to you to figure out what they mean. And they can mean anything. So they ask one thing, but actually can mean different things. So, and it's then up to you to go and follow up. Hey, what do you mean? Do you mean just a sum, or do you mean like moving window? Like, like you have like 5 different questions, follow-up questions, and sometimes people don't like to they just like to throw a question at you and just disappear and then wait for you to produce the result. And this field that you're dependent on, like your success, it depends on your stakeholder. It kind of sucks. So that's why I usually if there's a person that I have to work with and we don't have a match, we don't have a click, I usually try to go and like, I don't know, like it was in pre-COVID times, buy coffee, right? So it always worked to kind of have an icebreaker. That's dealing with people is as always, probably it's in every industry, it is most challenging part, because like code just listens to you and does what it's supposed to be doing, but people are different. They're different styles, different personalities.
Yeah, I love the tip of getting coffee, but at the same time, it's like COVID time, which makes things much harder to like build relationship. There's something about seeing people hide and then like how they like walk toward like, building a relationship. Okay, so Yasmin, how about you? What do you think?
I agree. It's trying to understand really what the stakeholder is trying to ask. That is the most challenging and exciting part as well, because it is like once you really have those conversations with them, I try to really break down the problem into like measurable metrics. That's when you get your eureka moment. So it's very challenging, but it's very highly rewarding. Another challenge I think it would be just like which we already had discussed earlier. Managing those like energy levels of like being an extrovert and an introvert, having to go into your zone and program and do data analytics and build dashboards, but also having to go and communicate that and switch between those 2 modes very frequently, like 5 times a day. So yeah.
Thanks, Yasmin. How about you, Shiner? What's your challenging stuff? How do you deal with that?
Like Yasmin and Anton, stakeholder engagement is definitely one of the challenging aspects side of my job, because it's sometimes hard to know what exactly our clients are looking for. The other part is a little bit more specific to just the type of work I do, because it's like finding like fraud. And what that always is always finding like a needle in a haystack, because like compared to like, like fraud to like non-fraud cases, it's like way less than 1% are fraud, and rest of the traffic are legitimate. So a lot of times when I'm presented with like clients say, oh, there's just like a kind of a weird activity going on in this particular time, can you look into it? So like it's like finding a needle in a haystack. I would need to like jump into it, start looking at patterns to see, if certain accounts are like sending traffic like too frequently or whatnot. Like there's just a lot of considerations that I need to do, and oftentimes how I resolve these issues is basically just reach out to the stakeholders, like whether it's internal or external, to basically get them to clarify what exactly they are saying like what exactly they want us to investigate. If like, is there like a specific like traffic coming from a specific country, like specific type of device, or like what are the characteristics essentially? So I guess to summarize how I would, solve this problem to like any industry is basically to get as refined of a requirement as possible so that you can really narrow down your scope and not spend extra time on unnecessary tasks.
Yeah, totally agree. And that piece actually takes a lot of time, just getting from ambiguity into like very refined problems so that you can focus on doing the work. Yeah, totally. Okay, so that is it for our Q&A. But to wrap things up, I want to ask all our speakers today, if someone is looking to be a data analyst, what is your one advice to them? And it can be a general advice as well. Okay, let's start with Anton.
Yeah, I like this. So biggest, I think it's big. So don't look around. Don't compare yourself with others. Only compare yourself to yesterday yourself. Yesterday, like for example, you didn't know what's the difference between left join and inner join with SQL, but today you know it. It's a big step up for you. So there are always people who are more experienced, know more than you. It will be like there are hundreds of thousands of people. There is no point. It will take you nowhere if you compare yourself to others. So compare yourself to yourself yesterday, and that's what helped me and help others. And I'm 100% confident that it will help you. It can be really discouraging comparing yourself to others, especially in society we live in, where social media, everybody is superhero, everybody is like, I don't know. Yeah, you got my point. Yeah, like don't look around, look at yourself.
Thanks, Anton. Totally agree. And if we talk about like how social media impact our imposter syndrome, it can be like a whole topic on its own. Yeah. Anyway, so Yasmin, what is one advice you want to give to everyone?
So it's a little bit generic. It's not just for applying for data analyst positions, but for any position really you want to apply to, is don't be held back by all the requirements in the job posting. Even if you satisfy 50%, 60% of it, just go ahead and apply. If you get rejected, and you will probably get rejected so many times, don't get discouraged. Keep applying. It's a learning process. It will take time, but it's a very highly rewarding process.
For sure. Thanks, Yasmin. Now, Shiner, leave us with the last note.
All right, that's a lot of pressure. Hopefully it lives up to the the conclusion of this particular event. But I think one thing I will say, and again, this is not really specific to data analysts, or like it could be applied to other roles or in life in general, I guess, is to be okay with uncertainties, and that it is okay to not know, because everyone, at some point in our lives, we don't know, the things that we're doing or the things that we want to pursue. But as life goes on, we work it out eventually. So trust in the process and be okay with uncertainty and be willing to seek for help when you need it.
Thanks, Shiner. A lot of great advices today. So yeah, I hope everyone has a great event. Our chat just blows up. So yeah, thank you everyone for your participations, and thank you Shiner, Yasmin, and Anton for a lot of great advices and your sharings today. So to wrap things up, because we're talking about hiring, who was hiring? Like, let me know, let us know. Unmute yourself, anyone from the speakers, from participants. Is your company hiring for data analysts, scientists, any data role? Just unmute yourself.
We're always hiring.
Same, always hiring, looking for a senior analyst now. So if you are a senior analyst, you want to work in games, hello.
Playing games every day.
Well, analyzing games every day. You get to play them too.
Yeah. Anton, are you hiring?
Yeah, I was going to say Yasmin should take it. Like, don't leave it to external people.
Oh, the senior analyst? Well, we're hiring multiples. Like we are hiring for so many positions, so it's never enough, just one person.
Cool.
Yeah. My team is hiring as well, and Shopify is constantly hiring for the scientist role. Yeah, engineer as well. Anyone from the audience, do you have any jobs that you want to advertise? Now's the time. Okay, cool. So I know the organizer will love me for this, but there's a Slack channel and there's a job channel in there. So if you do have any job posting, you can advertise there and the community will know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the great discussion today. I think that there's a lot of things that you have touched on is applicable not only for this data analyst job, but also for multiple jobs, not even in data, like communication skill is important, or like when always like don't feel shy to ask questions, things like that, right? Like it's very applicable. And so for lots of us, even when we start working for a while, there's still a lot of like the imposter syndrome that Anton mentioned, is we still always compare ourselves to someone else and make us feel less about ourselves, which is not good. And so I really appreciate that you guys bring a lot of good point today to our audience, and you can see a lot of question, also happy from the audience. So I think it's already run really long, and I will we will have like only a little bit at the end for speed networking for anyone who want to stay for speed networking. If you need to go, if you need to leave, feel free to leave. For all the people that's staying for networking, we'll just like feel free to just jump in any random any room, and then chatting a bit, and then we will close in like about 10-15 minutes. So with that, thank you so much, Shaina, Yasmin, and Anton for being here with us today. Okay, see you guys in the breakout room.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.